I'm sure you've seen other people talk about this movie. If you've got a trans friend, they've probably talked about it at length. I Saw a TV Glow is a horror movie that, if you're trans and if you haven't seen this movie, I really caution you about going to see it. This is a movie about the trans experience, directed by a trans woman, and it's going to emotionally destroy you. When I say horror, it's not like the slasher kind of a horror. It's more of an existential kind of a horror. And it's the kind of horror that I think somebody outside the queer community watching it, they're not really going to pick up on it. But anyone who's keyed in is going to know exactly what the movie's about pretty much just automatically. The premise is it's two high school friends who share a bond watching a 90s TV show called The Pink Opaque, which is about two girls who are psychically linked, and they use their psychic link even though they live on like opposite sides of a state. They can use that psychic link to help them fight like the bad guy. It's a very, 90s sci-fi, almost like Buffy the Vampire Slayer kind of like kitschy vibe to it, the show within the show. Because the movie is set starting in the 90s and then going into the 2000s, there's a lot in the film that just like feels so authentically 90s. The first time the main characters meet, it's in like a high school gym in the 90s, and they're sitting next to a Fruitopia machine. As somebody who went to high school in the 90s, yes, we did have that exact Fruitopia machine. There was just a lot of little details that really, really capture the vibe well. There was one thing, though, that I caught was an anachronism, and it's the main character, who's played by Justice Smith, when he meets the other character, who's... I forget their names, but he meets her. She's reading the episode guide for the show The Pink Opaque, and she... describes the show to him and talks about like Mr. Melancholy is the big bad. But this scene is set in 1996, and she uses the phrase big bad. And that's an anachronism because the term big bad, like, if you don't know what that is, the big bad is the overarching villain, right? Like, every season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer had a big bad. You had the big villain for that season. And basically every CW Arrowverse show has copied that formula. The term big bad itself was coined by Joss Whedon for the show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which came out in 97, not 96. So you wouldn't have had a kid in 96 saying big bad. But that's a very minor nitpick. That was just something that I noticed. Otherwise, like, the vibe is very 90s. The movie is done from the perspective of Justice Smith's character, who is very obviously an unreliable narrator, and the film is told kind of not exactly it's not in chronological order. We're seeing bits and pieces of his memory and like aspects of his memory that's very obviously off or wrong in some details. And like I said, I don't want to give away the central conceit of the film, but if you're queer, especially if you're trans, it's gonna hit you like, just like, yes, this is obviously 100% this is what's going on. And I think for general audiences, I think it's going to be a little more abstract for them. People who aren't tune in, I think they can still like appreciate it, but they're not really going to be hit with the horror. But I have a friend who said that she went and saw it with some of her other trans friends, and that they all needed to give each other aftercare after they got out of the movie. It touches on some very real aspects of the trans experience, especially like staying closeted. And Justice Smith does such a good performance in this movie. There's a scene, I'm just thinking about it, and I'm kind of emotional. He is begging for his life to a crowd of people who do not care and just ignore him. And it hit so hard. I didn't think I was going to break up like this, but if you're queer, you see that scene and you know exactly what it is. That it's the pain of dealing with a society that doesn't care about us. And he does such a good performance on it. Like, I don't think it's going to be appreciated by the larger audiences, but it's so good. And like, I saw this movie weeks ago, and like, just his pleas is still stick in my mind. I really recommend this movie. I think it's one of the best movies I've ever seen, but it is a hard movie to watch. So please watch it, but please be careful when you watch it and make sure that you've got a friend that you can lean on afterward, because it's going to be a hard watch, but it's really important. I think Joseph Smith should get the Oscar for it, honestly. He's not going to. I don't think the Academy is going to really pay attention to this movie. I think this is probably one of the best queer films I've ever seen. Yeah, I don't want to get into too much spoilers. I really think you should just go and watch it, but it's gonna click. If you're queer, it's gonna click for you. You're gonna immediately recognize it. Yeah, Curium, as a mentally broken guy, man, I'm not sure I can handle. If you are not sure that you can handle it, then yeah, you might not want to watch it. If you don't think that you've got the support afterward, it is a very hard film. But I think it's a very important film. I think it's a very powerful film. If you think you are in a mentally okay state and you are adequately ready, making sure that you've got somebody that you can talk to afterward, it's a really good movie. It's a really important movie. Hey, thanks for watching. Your view means a lot. Don't forget to toss me a like and subscribe and ring the bell and drop a comment below telling me what you thought of the video. I stream Mondays and Fridays at 5 p.m. Pacific, so catch me live and join in on the convo. You can find all my socials in the description below, and thank you to all my patrons, with a very special shout out to my Whale Shark tier patrons Ms. Milena and Hella Vetrum, and my Anemone Friend tier patron Piptal Cakes. Your support means the world. Catch you next time.